Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelova and this is Speedplay Gelre number 15. We left off with Austria and Poland rather upset at us for our conquest of Naples, and we are in a somewhat major war. Luckily, our allies the Ottomans are taking care of a lot of the issues, although the war isn't going fantastic for them. And we're picking up basically just in the midpoint of the war. What we're going to do is build up our forces for a possible counterattack against the Austrians. And we're going to do that through Venice, which is actually probably the thing that really upset them the most. And so we'll just start pulling all of our forces that we still haven't brought to the European theater and bring them up to bear against the Austrians. Now there is a lot of enemy movement, but it's a bit far away. Unfortunately, we also may have to deal with Spain and a few of the sub-Saharan African countries. As it stands, though, we're not in a bad position. And we're going to go ahead. We are slightly winning the war, which is great news. And we're starting to just bring our forces forward to bear against the Austrian coastline and a little bit against their Alpine areas. Now, if we do take their capital, we'll be able to lower their war score, or their desire to keep fighting the war, by about 5%. So we're going to go ahead and just shovel our forces up into Vienna and the surrounding area. We're going to end up having rather large stacks of men, which isn't ideal for a couple reasons, but at the same time that will prevent them from picking off our units. We do get declared on by Spain, so this is going to be a very legitimate concern in the near future. They are flooding into southern Italy. What we're really going to have to do is end the war with Austria and Poland as quickly as possible in order to focus more on Spain. Although I don't believe that Spain will be an issue with its alliance members as well. I don't quite believe that they'll be that much of a threat. However, it's something that we should definitely piece out with the Austrians in order to focus on. And we do see that there is a lot of progress being made by the Ottomans in their countryside on the Balkans. And it looks as though the Austrian army has just sort of ceased to exist. There is still a force fighting the Ottomans in the south. In the north, however, we are getting a lot of enemy movement. They aren't really attacking us at this point. And we did just seize Vienna. They are attacking Vienna, though, but we do win the battle. And we're going to start pulling our forces over to deal with the Spanish threat. It looks as though Milan is also in the war against us, so we'll go ahead and see what we can do. We will engage them. And we've won the first battle. It looks as though we may win the second, which does go in our favor as well. And we'll start spreading our forces out to siege out Milan. And we do have a couple forces still left in Austria. We are attacked in Lombardy, but we do win it. And so long as we're able to just keep up enough of our forces that they won't be able to actually win any of the battles, or at the very worst stack wipe us, we'll be fine. And just like that, we make peace with the Austrians as they had an army heading in to attack one of our forces, and that just seemed unpleasant. Unfortunately, we weren't able to reinforce our army due to that, as the Spanish army became exiled. They still managed to fight that last battle, though, before deciding to be exiled, which I guess that just is a thing that can happen. They do continue to engage us. The battle is going slightly in our favor, and we do win. And so long as we get it so that they're attacking us, I think we'll be fine for these major Italian battles. And they just are relentlessly attempting to seize that area, but we do defeat them a second time. We begin building up additional forces. And at this rate, it looks as though we'll be able to just slowly move through the Italian peninsula and hopefully prevent them from evacuating or saving any of their forces. That is the ideal goal. We'll see if it actually ends up similar to that. There is a rather large engagement in the south, which we do luckily win. And it looks as though their forces are actually going to just go evacuate to Spain, but that gets it out of the front, out of the entire theater, so that's good. We do win another engagement. Their forces appear to be just staying in France, so it looks as though we'll be able to move through France into Spain once we're done with Italy. And as it stands, we're not in a bad spot whatsoever. There is a large pretender rebellion, which we may end up having to deal with. Luckily, the French come and fight that for us, which is rather convenient. And we've nearly shored up the position in southern Italy. There's another large battle. Unluckily, it looks as though the enemy has won that. But we are piecing together our forces in the south. There is a bit of a conflict going on. Luckily, we win that battle and the subsequent battle, sack-wiping one of their forces, and we can begin moving our troops up and sieging out all of southern Italy. I'm not sure if we'll be able to bring men to bear quick enough to save that. We were not able to, but we won the subsequent engagement. And at this point, we're not in a bad position whatsoever. They do currently control the province which the war goal is focused around, and that will lower our war score inexorably, essentially, until we get it back. So that will have to be a long-term focus. There's a significant battle, but it does look as though we were able to win it by bringing in reinforcements pretty quickly. And now we'll just begin moving our forces over and hopefully destroying what's left of theirs, which has been working out at least a bit. They are invading us in Africa, however, at this point it's not too much of a concern, and we really want to just focus on clearing up Italy before we turn our forces around. As while the battles are essentially mostly won, I don't want to split our forces up enough to actually risk losing Italy again or having to pull back from our sieges. And we do press a little bit into France to attack their armies as best we can. However, I pull back eventually, as that doesn't seem like it'll be the best at this point. We do still have a lot of forces in Italy, and we do attempt to make peace in North America. However, we decide against that peace deal at this point. We also begin using our navy to just fight a couple battles. And it's a bit of a hard-fought thing, but we do win that first one. And the enemy does attack, however, we repel them in northern Italy. And at this point, we've nearly seized control over most of Italy. And we begin launching another strike out into France to deal whatever death blow we can to these armies. Unfortunately, when we went to get troops, our transports were attacked. So we will have to send our fleet back over to deal with that issue. And I'll go ahead and just attack the Spanish with the force that I have ready. It does not work. What we go ahead and do is we're going to have to do a two-part thing. First, we're going to need to seize back Egypt and then get our forces transported over. So there's a rather large engagement, which we do win. And at this point, we've nearly seized control of Italy, and we're sending our forces into Spain proper, or at least the Ottomans are, so we may have to go back them up. Although, realistically, since the war goal is in Southeast Asia, we're going to have to get an army back over into Southeast Asia to actually deal with the enemy. Which means we can probably get our transports over, but if we don't control Egypt, we'll be a bit stuck at that point. And there is a second engagement. Unfortunately, we do lose that as well, so we need to get as many forces over as possible, and that means first defeating the Spanish fleet and supporting the Ottomans in Spain so that we don't collapse that end of the front. Although both efforts seem to be going fairly well, and we do defeat their fleet, so we can go ahead and pick up our remaining forces. We do start losing battles in Spain itself, which is a bit worrying. However, this battle in Africa is going, well, actually not very much better than the last one. So we're going to have to continue to draw forces over, just from Italy, and maybe constructing a bit more of an army. We start bridging our forces over, and we're just going to keep attacking, bringing more forces in each time so that hopefully it will work. And this time it definitely does. We do defeat the Spanish, and we go to chase them down. However, they are just fleeing, so we leave them alone. And now it's just going to be a matter of clearing out these provinces and getting some forces on the boats. Well, first we'll deal with these rebels, though, and then we'll get our forces on the boats and send them over to Southeast Asia to get the province that the war is over. So that did go fairly well. The Ottomans are hopefully going to just keep up their position in Spain, We start pulling our forces back in order to defend our sieging stacks. And it does look as though it's going to go fairly well. We would be able to piece out the Papal State at this point. We could just get them to revoke their cores. Although at this point I decide not to quite make peace with them just yet, as they do increase our war score against the Spanish, and I don't want to get negative. Although piecing them out might not get us negative, I really don't want to test that out and find out. So we're going to put our troops on these transports and transport one stack over to Morocco so we can go ahead and defeat those armies there, and another force over to the province that the war was actually about, which is Burrito. And we do manage to land our forces with a leader who has a good siege score. We begin shipping more forces over towards Morocco. We also have a few men in Spain who we send over to the Spanish capital. We managed to avoid a Spanish navy because neither of us were actually moving to engage, and we take out one of the smaller forces before moving on to the large. Now, at this point, I'm not entirely sure what I want from the Spanish. We do have a pretty good war score, so we could probably just make a white peace. We're going to start splitting our forces up in Morocco so that we can begin unsieging these provinces. And realistically, at this point, it really just depends on what we want. So, what we're probably going to end up doing is keeping this war going into the next episode, fighting the Spanish, and just getting every last thing that we can from Spain and all of their allies. After all, we've been fighting Europe for the last few years. We really may as well get something great out of it. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.